So I was trying to decide what I should title this message this morning. And I kind of have a bone to pick, I'll get to that maybe just a few minutes later with somebody here. But anyhow, I couldn't decide on a title. And I had 5 things that kept coming to my mind. And so I thought, well, I'll just read all 5 of them and let you pick. So the first one was, does God have your attention? Second one, what does it take for God to get your attention? Third one was, are you listening? Fourth one, you do understand, don't you? And the fifth one was a Kodak moment. So while you're thinking about that, I just want to say good morning. I'm thankful to be here this morning. I was sitting down on one of my places of refuge this morning, listening to the silence. And just kind of trying to prepare my heart, pray for you guys, each one of you, for us as a church, and just the things that God has put on my heart. When you volunteer to speak, you usually at some time ask yourself, why did I do that? So from the moment I said I would cover for Travis today, because Travis came to me and he said, I'm going to be gone on the 13th, and I need somebody to cover for me. So I said, okay. And lo and behold, I get here this morning and look who's here. Travis.
I wouldn't miss your preaching for anything.
I see how you operate now, brother, and I won't forget that. I almost had to do a drastic change of all my notes this morning because of that. But you're going to just get it for what it is. But anyhow, from that moment, a seed was planted in my mind and heart. And every message I've heard from this pulpit since that time has led me to challenge my own heart and to challenge you today. To examine yourselves and ask, what does it take for God to get our attention? And when He does, what is our understanding of who the God we serve really is? So Daniel, I appreciate what you shared this morning, and maybe one of these verses is the one you were trying to think of. Proverbs 1:7 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And in Proverbs 2, regarding understanding, it says, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will discern the fear of the Lord and discover the knowledge of God. With that intent in mind, I have been writing down my thoughts, and I now have 6 pages of notes. And I don't know whether I should say this or not. And I also intend to read a little over 4 chapters from the Word. When I told Kelly that this morning on the way here, she looked at me like, oh my goodness, what are you going to do? And so you probably now are thinking, today would have been a really good day to go to the coast. So the only way I can accomplish that and get us out of here by noon is to pull off my best impersonation of Phil Wyatt. A master of verbal communication, Phil. Boy, you're my motivation, buddy, I'll tell you. That's a compliment, by the way, too. That's not a cut. Travis was a cut, I know he needs a break from us, but maybe we really needed a break from him too. During the past couple of months, God has used these men to stir me and ask myself personal questions, such as, this was from Theron, am I a self-sufficient Christian? Jesse, can God really care for us all individually? Travis, being honest about my faith, what do I cling to? Jason, do my ideas, assumptions, and opinions about truth equal truth? Ron, how do I serve God in my daily life? You always wonder, what kind of impact you have when you give a lesson. Well, these are just thoughts that came to me from each one of you guys. Do we really trust that He knows everything and that nothing takes Him by surprise? Does that truth scare us or comfort us? I think it does a little both for me sometimes. It seems we often greatly minimize or underestimate or reduce God in our thinking to something or someone that He definitely is not. We build our God box and try to make Him fit in it. For years, Kelly and I, when we go on hunting trips, we've disciplined ourselves to ask each other at day's end, what was your Kodak moment today? I got to thinking there's probably a lot of people in here, depending on your age, that's saying, what in the world is a Kodak? Those of us that are well seasoned, good way to put it, remember the Kodak days, don't you? Okay, good. Glad I'm not the only one. We have found that many days on most hunting trips are elkless or deerless and somewhat discouraging. Kelly has a sign over our stove in the kitchen. It's got big letters, vegetarian. Old native word for lousy hunter. But if we really have our eyes open, there's always a Kodak moment that in some manner impresses us. It usually centers around something with God's signature on it. For example, watermelon faces. I said, no, what's a watermelon face? Well, in the woods, that time of year in September, there's all these green, immature pine cones, or cones of some kind, and the squirrels, when you're sitting there, those little squirrels will grab them, and the pine cone is as big or long as they are, and they grab it right by the end, and they run back and forth, stocking these things up in stockpiles somewhere, and they look like they're packing a watermelon on their face. So we chuckle about that and enjoy that. Kelly's really good about, if she's there for very long, something's going to be eating out of her hand. If we could just get a big bull elk to come eat out of her hand a little closer. Last year it was so close. Last year up in the Sled Springs unit, over these ponds, these huge big dragonflies, I was just amazed. They'd come and they'd just fly right, they get right here in front of you like they're staring at you. This double set of wings, and they're really pretty, and it was amazing. Sunsets and sunrises. Some awesome ones when you're out there. Always something that catches our attention and testifies of the Creator. These types of encounters tend to make us smile and feel good. Other moments impact us more. The first breaths of newborns. I tell you, I am amazed. It's the one thing I'll probably miss about selling all of my sheep. I sold them all about a month and a half ago. Nobody thought I would do it, but I did it. But at lambing time, you work hard, and you to get this little critter out alive, and you get it out, and it takes that first breath, and there's life in it. All the equipment's there, everything. It just came from a total aquatic environment where it's safe and warm. Try to shove it back in there and see how well it survives. Can't do it. But when it takes that breath, it just amazes me. The last breaths of my dad and my sister, I was with both of them. And my sister's face between my hands when she took her last breath. And my dad, and suddenly it just hits you like, what is this thing we call life to begin with? You can't put it into something. You can pull a trigger and take it away. I'll tell you, that makes an impact on you too. Around my house where I've done, butchered a lot of animals or hunting, and you do that and suddenly it makes an impact on you. My dad was amazing with animals and genetics. He was honored in a book on the history of the Australian Shepherd dog. Malachi, you could go ahead and put that picture up now. People far and wide wanted dogs with his bloodlines. They were always amazed at how his dogs obeyed him. If he told one of those dogs to sit and stay, they would sit and stay for days until he told them that they could move. That happened on the front porch of that big store in Jackson Hole, Wyoming once. He told the dog to stay. People were coming and going, and when Dad came out, how do you do that? How do you get those dogs to do that? He would tell them that he knew just how to get their attention. He knew how to get my attention also. He always made me look him in the eye when I needed correction. He would state the error clearly and the consequences and then ask, now, you do understand, don't you? And you're sitting there thinking, look at me now. Okay. Now, you do understand, don't you? And he'd repeat it until he knew you understood. Dad couldn't walk on water, but his dogs could. I had to put that in there. I thought about leaving this picture down, but I could not find it. We have a picture somewhere in a bunch of slides of those dogs on Howard Prairie Lake. Dad had them up there in the water. It was a morning where the water was just like glass, but there was a bunch of stumps out there about half-inch underneath the surface, and you couldn't see them. So he took the dogs out there about 20, 30 yards from the shore, put them all up, and they were sitting just like that, and it looked like they were walking on water. Really cool picture, but I couldn't find it, sorry. So anyhow, Malachi, that's you can take that down. I wanted to read just a thing from his journal. My dad, after he died, we found this, I guess it was just kind of daily devotionals that he would write to himself. And they're pretty cool, a lot of them. But this one was from December 31st, 1986, and it says, listen, do you hear it? The sheep bell. People often ask me why I have bells on the sheep. There are several reasons. I just love the shape and sound of bells. Each is distinctive in its own particular shape and sound. Another reason for the sheep bells are so I can monitor the sheep. I can hear them in the dark. They tell me whether the sheep are down in the cedar woods or up on the hill or across the creek. As I hear that fast little jingle, I know that an old ewe is just shaking the raindrops off of her face and ears. This reminds me that the great shepherd is not dependent upon little bells, but his omniscience enables him to know where you and I are at all times. Jesse? Even though it's dark outside and I am hid from the sight of men, I know the Good Shepherd is following my whereabouts and knows whether I am about good or evil, or whether good or evil is about me. Then he'd always leave it with a verse. It says, the eyes of the Lord are every place, beholding the good and evil. That's out of Proverbs 15:3. We're often so focused on ourselves, our situations, our struggles, our dreams, our treasures. Matthew 6:21 says, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. My grandson Reed and I, we were talking just yesterday a little bit about things we remember, things that we forget. And things you find out where what your treasures are then. Once in a while, God has to speak to us from a whirlwind to get our attention. And when he does, it usually leaves a permanent mark on us. An obituary from an Ashland newspaper about 100 years ago tells of my Uncle Brooks, who died as a young boy. It said that Brooks had not been breathing for over 10 minutes and was pronounced dead. But suddenly jumped up and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell Corvin, my brother, to be sure and go to church." He then laid back down and never woke up again. It's a true story. Corvin was Dallas's. Dallas, are you here today? Oh, yeah, there's Dallas. Corvin was Dallas's great-grandfather. That little event left its mark on the family, especially Corvin, who was faithfully in church thereafter. As we move to the Word of God, I ask you, does your knowledge and understanding of our God mark you in a way that changes how you see yourself and how you see Him? The book of Job records the familiar story of a man that feared God, was blameless, and turned from evil, and yet his life became a broken wreck of heartache, loss, and unanswered questions. I'm not standing before you this morning to try and tackle the whys of suffering. Boy, last week, and you look at those floods and things that people are going through, the suffering. That's not my intent here this morning. But only to challenge our thinking of who God is. We sang last week that He's more than what's expressed in a song. He searches deeper within. He wants our heart. It's all about Him. Over the years, I've heard these comments from mostly men saying, "I believe in the big man upstairs and the woods are my church." It troubles me. That troubles me about the same as someone asking me about my old man or old lady. I just say, "Who?" until they get the hint. Job uses the word Shaddai about 31 times, referring to God the Almighty. In Job 38, verse 3, and Job chapter 40, verse 7, God tells Job to gird up your loins like a man. I'll tell you, that verse, I can't shake it. It just, it's been on my mind for a long time. And that's the seed that God put in my heart when I told Travis that I would do this morning. Gird up your loins like a man. I will ask you, and you instruct me. Man, if you smacked me in the square in the face with an oak limb, you wouldn't get my attention more than this directive to Job. So 2 weeks ago, I know what it's like. I got just 2 nights before I had to officiate my grandson's wedding, I got smacked right square in the nose with a great big pine limb, and it almost broke my nose, and it definitely marked me. I'm sure people at the wedding thought, man, doesn't that guy ever wash his face? To gird yourself means to prepare yourself for action. Imagine God speaking to you directly and saying that. It profoundly affects me. It brings back those father and son memories of, you do understand me now, don't you? Job has cried out for a hearing before God to state his case and question God about the whys for his unfair suffering. He gets a totally unexpected response. God tells him to prepare himself for action. Then he questions him into submission. He uses repetition with over 70 questions, mostly about animate and inanimate objects, the heavens, things of nature. But he uses these questions to communicate important truth. God challenges Job to teach him. Think of that. As I read this questioning, I encourage you to apply these things that I know Theron taught in his message. I'm gonna read a bunch, but I want to encourage you to just let God speak to you through those verses. In Theron's message, he was talking about grazing, foraging. So I encourage you to forage for it, consume it, meditate on it, ruminate on it, and marinate in it. So, ruminate is a word that I'm very familiar with. And I should ask Jason in the back to give us a little update on that, because I know he's well educated on what a ruminant is. And he and I had that little discussion one day and about the 4 compartments of a ruminant's stomach. Jason, should I do it or let it go? Yeah, you're gutsy, boy. I won't. I'll let you off the hook. Everybody know what it means to ruminate? You young people, you 4-H and FFAers? Good. Yeah, it's chewing your cud. So you can either follow along with me or just sit back and listen or go to sleep if that's how God leads you. But here's where I do my Phil Wyatt thing. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, "Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now gird up your loins like a man, and I will ask you, and you instruct me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who sets its measurements, since you know, or who stretched the line on it? On what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who enclosed the sea with doors, when bursting forth it went out from the womb? When I made a cloud its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and I placed boundaries on it, and I set a bolt on doors, and I said, thus far you shall come, but no farther. And here shall your proud waves stop. Have you ever in your life commanded the morning and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and they stand forth like a garment. And from the wicked their light is withheld, and the uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or have you walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you understood the expanse of the earth? Tell me if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling of light? And darkness, where is its place? That you may take it to its territory, and that you may discern the paths to its home. You know, for you were born then. And the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of distress, for the day of war and battle? Where is the way that the light is divided, or the east wind scattered on the earth? Who has cleft a channel for the flood, or a way for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on a land without people, on a desert without a man in it, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the seeds of grass to sprout? Has the rain a father? Or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb has come the ice and the frost of heaven, who has given it birth? Water becomes hard like stone, and the surface of the deep is imprisoned. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth a constellation in its season, and guide the bear with her satellites? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens, or fix their rule over the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, so that an abundance of water may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings, that they may go and say to you, here we are? Who has put wisdom in the innermost being? Or who has given understanding to the mind? Who can count the clouds by wisdom, or tip the water jars of the heavens, when the dust hardens into a mast and the clods stick together? Can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions, when they crouch in their dens and lie in wait in their lair? Who prepares for the raven its nourishment, when its young cry to God and wander about without food? Do you know the time the mountain goats give birth? Do you observe the calving of the deer? Can you count the months they fulfill? Or do you know the time they give birth? They kneel down, they bring forth their young. They get rid of their labor pains. Their offspring becomes strong. They grow up in the open field. They leave and do not return to them. Who sent them out like the wild donkey? Or who sent out the wild donkey free? And who loosed the bonds of the swift donkey? To whom I gave the wilderness for a home, and the salt land for his dwelling place. He scorns the tumult of the city. The shoutings of the driver he does not hear. He explores the mountains for his pasture, and he searches after every green thing. Will the wild ox consent to serve you, or will he spend the night at your manger? Can you bind the wild ox in a furrow with ropes, or will he harrow the valleys for you? Will you trust him because his strength is great, and leave your labor to him? Will you have faith in him that he will return your grain and gather it from your threshing floor? The ostrich's wings flap joyously with the pinions and plumage of love, for she abandons her eggs to the earth and warms them in the dust, and she forgets that a foot may crush them, or that a wild beast may trample them. She treats her young cruelly as if they were not hers. Though her labor be in vain, she is unconcerned. But God has made her forget wisdom, and has not given her a share of understanding. When she lifts herself on high, she laughs at the horse and his rider. Do you give the horse his might? Do you clothe his neck with a mane? Do you make him leap like the locust? His majestic snorting is terrible. He paws in the valley and rejoices in his strength. He goes out to meet the weapons. He laughs at fear and is not dismayed, and he does not turn back from the sword. The quiver rattles against him, the flashing spear and javelin. With shaking and rage he races over the ground, and he does not stand still at the voice of the trumpet. As often as the trumpet sounds, he says, "Aha," and he scents the battle from afar, and thunder of the captains and the war cry. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars, stretching his wings toward the south? Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high? On the cliff he dwells and lodges, upon the rocky crag, an inaccessible place. From there he spies out food. His eyes see it from afar. His young ones also suck up blood, and where the slain are, there is He. You know, I think by now probably Job was kind of getting the message and was probably thinking, okay, I've had enough. Let's get this over with. So that reminds me of one of those occasions where God profoundly made an impression on me. And it was another time when we were hunting. My kids were all little. Spencer was just maybe 2. I thought he was still in diapers, but Kelly said no, said he was a little older than that. And we were out 50, 60 miles east of Lakeview out there in the sagebrush, and man, it was hot. It was about 95 degrees. We had an old Chevy pickup with a big metal canopy on it. Just that was our luxury liner at the time. And Erin had just gotten braces on the day before, had headgear on, and she was not a happy camper. And it was hot, but anyhow, that morning I'd killed this antelope buck, and I got ready to go pack it out. So I had cutoffs, just cutoffs, my boots, no shirt, had kind of an old safari helmet on, kind of that protects you from the sun. A pair of Polaroid sunglasses with a nice aluminum metal strip down both sides, and my pack board with a metal frame that stuck up about this far above top of my head and back. So I got out there and I had my meat saw. I had a meat saw about this long. So I got down and man, it's hot and I'm working on this antelope, starting to break him down. And I look and over the Cascades, there is this black cloud building. And I looked at it and I thought, man, that is weird. Pretty soon, it's just like it's moving and it's on track coming. And within a very brief time, it went from about 95 degrees down to 40 and dropping big old hailstones, and the lightning and thunder started happening, and the air sounded like eggs frying, the sizzling, the static electricity in the air. And I'm looking around myself thinking, I am by far the tallest thing for miles around. But you know, I grew up in Colorado, at least until I was almost 16 when we moved to Oregon. And there are some terrific lightning and thunderstorms at the base of the Rockies there where we lived. And I used to love at night to listen to those storms, those lightning storms especially. But here I am suddenly out there and things have changed and I'm suddenly shivering and I'm talking to myself, come on, suck it up and take care of this. So I'm sawing with this saw, crash, this lightning hit out there, and I chucked that saw about as far as I could throw it. I looked around, crash, another one went, off went the sunglasses with that little metal strip. And then I forgot, I got this backpack on. I chucked the backpack, and there I am, standing there, you know, pretty well stripped down on my cutoffs, and I'm shivering, and it is coming down. And I've never been in a storm like that. So I thought, what do I do? So I laid down on the ground on my face, and I'm laying down like this. And I mean, it's coming down. And I took it for a long time. And I'm kind of feeling like maybe that's the way Job is about at this point. I remember it so clearly. I rolled over on my back. I don't even want to look up because it impacted me so much. I don't even want to look up. But I was looking right up and I said, and I spoke out loud. I said, God, I am really impressed. This is awesome. This is amazing. But I have had enough. I barely get the words out. Crash right close to me. I flopped over like a fish that you just brought in a boat, and I laid there. Just silent, face down, and it was muddy by then, and I laid there for quite a while. Absolutely. I thought I was going to die there. I thought I was going to get fried by lightning. And that little episode, I've never forgotten it. I've never been the same since. Lightning storms. God marked me that day in a way that will last my whole lifetime. And it was in a good way because it brought my attention to Him, you know, more than I can describe to you. So here we have Job, that in my mind I'm thinking that's probably kind of where he's at. Then the Lord said to Job, will the fault finder contend with the Almighty? Let him who reproves God answer it. Then Job answered the Lord and said, behold, I am insignificant. What can I reply to thee? I lay my hand on my mouth. Once I have spoken, and I will not answer, even twice, and I will add no more. Then the Lord answered Job out of the storm and said, here it comes again. Just think of this. Now gird up your loins like a man. I will ask you, and you instruct me. Lord, I heard you the first time. Do we have to go over those lines again? But he, Job is basically, he's down and about to tap out here. Will you really annul my judgment? Will you condemn me that you may be justified? Or do you have an arm like God, and can you thunder with a voice like his? Adorn yourself with eminence and dignity, and clothe yourself with honor and majesty. Pour out the overflowings of your anger, and look on everyone who is proud and make him low. Look on everyone who is proud and humble him, and tread down the wicked where they stand. Hide them in the dust together, bind them in the hidden place. Then I will also confess to you that your own right hand can save you. Behold now Behemoth, which I made as well as you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold now his strength in his loins, and his power in the muscles of his belly. He bends his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze, his limbs like bars of iron. He is the first of the ways of God. Let his maker bring near his sword. Surely the mountains bring him food, and all the beasts of the field play there. Under the lotus plants he lies down, in the covert of the reeds and the marsh. The lotus plants cover him with shade. The willows of the brook surround him. If a river rages, he is not alarmed. He is confident, though the Jordan rushes to his mouth. Can anyone capture him when he is on watch? With barbs, can anyone pierce his nose? Can you draw out Leviathan with a fishhook, or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many supplications to you, or will he speak to you soft words? Will he make a covenant with you? Will you take him for a servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird? Or will you bind him for your maidens? Will the traders bargain over him? Will they divide him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons, or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hand on him. Remember the battle. You will not do it again. Behold, your expectation is false. Will you be laid low even at the sight of him? No one is so fierce that he dares to arouse him. Who then is he that can stand before me? Who has given to me that I should repay him? Whatever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not keep silence concerning his limbs, or his mighty strength, or his orderly frame. Who can strip off his outer armor? Who can come within his double mail? Who can open the doors of his face? Around his teeth there is terror. His strong scales are his pride, shut up as with a tight seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They clasp each other and cannot be separated. His sneezes flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning torches. Sparks of fire leap forth. Out of his nostrils smoke goes forth, as from a boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes forth from his mouth. In his neck lodges strength, and dismay leaps before him. The folds of his flesh are joined together, firm on him and immovable. His heart is as hard as a stone, even as hard as a lower millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty fear. Because of the crashing, they are bewildered. The sword that reaches him cannot avail, nor the spear, the dart, or the javelin. He regards iron as straw, bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned into stubble for him. Clubs are regarded as stubble. He laughs at the rattling of the javelin. His underparts are like sharp potsherds. He spreads out like a threshing sledge on the mire. He makes the depths boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a jar of ointment. Behind him he makes a wake to shine. One would think the deep to be gray-haired. Nothing on earth is like him, one made without fear. He looks on everything that is high. He is king over all the sons of pride. Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that thou canst do all things, and that no purpose of thine can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore, I have declared that which I did not understand, things too wonderful for me which I did not know. Hear now, and I will speak. I will ask thee, and do thou instruct me. I have heard of thee by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees thee. Therefore I retract, and I repent in dust and ashes. You know, Job has cried out for a hearing before God to state his case and question God about the whys for his unfair suffering. He gets this totally unexpected response. God tells him to prepare himself for action, then questions him into submission. He uses this repetition with over 70 questions to communicate important truth. God challenges Job to teach him. Think of that. As I read this questioning, I encourage you to apply it. As I said before, to forage for it, to consume it, to meditate upon it, to ruminate upon it. Job acknowledges God's sovereignty over his life. That's the big thing, you know, that's what he came to, acknowledges his sovereignty. As individuals and as a church, we must not compromise who God is. It's a danger in these days in which we live. We must gird ourselves. The battle is real and ever increasing. Our God is not the big man upstairs. He is the almighty sovereign God of the universe over all the little men downstairs. Lord, thank you for your word. Thank you for who you are. Lord, you are worthy of praise and honor and glory. It's not about us, Lord, it's about you. Help us to remember that. Lord, it's so easy to forget that. Lord, and sometimes we need you to make a mark on us. Lord, you know each one of us personally. You know what it takes. And I just pray that you'll always have our attention. Lord, that we will never minimize you individually or as a church body. And I pray, Lord, that as we go from here, that others will see us and the marks you've made on us, and that it will be like light and salt in the darkness around us. I ask and pray these things and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.